All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here for another Monday live stream of Yoga for Mental Wellness. It's nice to see all of you virtually. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I've got some music playing. Just still learning the ropes with all this, but we're learning as we go. So today's class will involve some meditation, and we'll also be doing some different shapes per usual. So you'll need 2 textbooks or 2 yoga blocks if you have them, a pillow from your bed or your couch, or a bolster if you've got one is also a great option. And then a blanket as well, so that you can use it for Shavasana at the end when we're in our final resting pose, as well as to kind of cover or to offer your seat a little bit of support in a seated position, which is actually how we'll start today. And so I'll invite you to find a comfortable seat. That might mean crossing your legs. You could also come to sit on a textbook or a block in between your ankles so that you're sitting on your shins. If you do decide to sit this way, it is going to stretch the tops of your feet and your ankles quite a bit, and it might be a little bit of pressure on the knees, so just be mindful because we will be in this position for a little bit. I'm going to take a cross-legged position. I also don't think I introduced myself. I'm Shelby, Shelby Dwyer, one of the counselors at UHCS. So again, thanks for being here. And so a little bit about today's practice. So it is a yin yoga practice, and I find that yin yoga translates really well to life off the mat. And part of that is that in the practice, as you may have experienced in previous classes, we come into a shape and we find our edge in that shape, a place where we feel some sensation in the body. And then we hold, experiencing that sensation for a period of time, maybe somewhere between 3 and 8 minutes. And we hold in relative stillness. And what that does is it helps teach the body tolerance of discomfort, which I think translates really well off the mat. And so throughout today's practice and every practice, I'll invite you to tune inward with the sensations that you may or may not be experiencing. And know that if I say that, oh, you might experience a stretch across your left ribs, you may not experience that stretch, and that's perfectly okay. The idea with yin is that it's really such a personal practice, and you are the one who knows your body best. You're the expert here, really, and I can't see you. So part of it will be, the majority of it is going to be you tuning in internally to kind of get a sense of what your body needs. And to start today, I thought it might be nice to actually check in with ourselves for a moment. A friend sent me an article recently from the New York Times that talked about checking in with ourselves emotionally during what's happening globally. And I realized that even though I'm a therapist and I focus on emotions and how people are feeling and doing all the time, that I wasn't really checking in with myself. And I have made a better practice of doing it and thought it might be a nice offering. And so in a moment, we'll do that. We'll check in with ourselves, and I'll encourage you to take care of yourself. So if something feels really intense, feel free to get up, go get a glass of water. I've got some tea here. If you need to take a break, go for a walk, or, whatever it is, distract yourself, please feel free to take care of yourself. Sometimes when we create space and we sit in relative stillness and allow emotions to just kind of move through, sometimes it can be really intense. And so again, I'll encourage you to just take care of yourself. It's temporary. And if anything feels overwhelming, feel free to distract yourself if you need to. But the idea with this practice is that we will be holding space for our emotions and holding space for whatever arises to arise without necessarily making meaning out of it or attaching anything to it. And so you might envision your thoughts almost like waves against the shore, or maybe raindrops on a windowsill. Maybe it's clouds floating in the sky or bubbles that just kind of float and pop as they go through your mind's eye. But the idea is that these emotions, these just as our thoughts, are temporary and fleeting. And there's something to be said when we hold space for ourselves and can check in and really take our own temperature, I guess. So you're probably already there, but find a comfortable seat. Again, however you feel most comfortable to sit for a prolonged period of time. And adjust as needed. If anything falls asleep, correct your posture or switch the cross of your legs, adjust whatever you need. And I'll invite you to keep your eyes closed, or perhaps you can keep your eyes open, whatever you'd feel more comfortable with and whatever is safest for you. If you choose to keep your eyes open, ensure that your chin is parallel with the ground and your gaze maybe is a few feet in front of you. And you might keep your hands on your lap, maybe palms face down if you need some more grounding energy. Perhaps palms can be face up if you would like a little bit more energy. Alternatively, you can place your left hand over your heart, fingers spread wide. Maybe your other hand over your belly. And then just start to allow your body to breathe itself normally. Familiarize yourself with any sensations that you might be experiencing currently in your body. If you notice that there's an area that might be clenching or there's some tension there, perhaps you can direct your attention there for a moment. Labeling that part of your body. And then seeing if you can consciously release any of that tension. Allow your body to breathe in a way that feels most natural for you, without trying to force the breath to be fast or slow. Maybe sighing out the mouth, if that feels useful. Maintain a long spine. Allow your face to be soft. You might begin now to take some deeper inhales and exhales. Maybe allowing the ribs to expand side to side as you breathe in. And then allowing the belly button to soften back towards the spine, the ribs decompress as you breathe out. Continuing to breathe in a way that feels most comfortable and effortless. I'll invite you now to take a deeper look inward. Maybe ask yourself, how am I doing? How am I feeling today? How am I holding up? Notice what thoughts, what emotions arise. Again, without judgment and without making meaning of them or having any attachment to the thoughts or the emotions. Again, allowing those thoughts or emotions to drift through your mind's eye, coming into focus and then perhaps veering out of focus, or appearing like raindrops on a window, clouds in the sky, maybe the crests of a wave as it hits the shore. Can you lovingly hold space for these temporary and fleeting thoughts and emotions? When you feel ready, take a deep, full breath in and sigh out the mouth. Again, big breath in and exhale. Once more, big breath in. Sigh it out. Slowly lower your hands to your knees. And gently blink open your eyes and come back to the space. So if you feel ready, we'll move into our first shape, and we'll be taking supine butterfly pose. And so for this first pose, you might bring your blanket to the top of your mat as a support for underneath your head. You might also bring your books or your 2 blocks with you. And you'll come to lie down on your mat or blanket, whatever you're on. You can support your head, and then your feet, the bottoms of your feet will come together and your knees will wing out to the side. The blocks can be useful as a support underneath the knees if you put them at a bit of an angle so that the knee can rest on the angle and this part would be on the floor. But that way it's not too invasive or too intense of an opening through the inner leg line and the groin. And you might play with the distance of your heels toward your pelvis. Further away might feel like less of a stretch and less intensity across the inner leg line. The closer your heels are to your hips, that might increase the sensation across the inner leg line. Your hands can maybe rest alongside your legs, or maybe hands rest on your belly. Alternatively, you could also have the arms draped across the floor above your head. And find what works for you here, knowing that the placement of your arms is going to impact the stretch and the opening you might feel across the front of your body as you're in a gentle back bend in this shape. And so fidget as much as you need to find some relative comfort, knowing that the yin practice is not one of comfort. Sorry to tell you. But again, we're developing our tolerance to distress by being able to sit in these shapes with some discomfort. If at any point maybe your arms or legs go numb, something starts to tingle, or you have a sharp pain, gently ease yourself out of it however you need to. You might take a moment to check in with the quality of your thoughts, of your mind, of your emotions. Perhaps they've shifted from when we were in our seated position in that first meditation, where we checked in with ourselves. You'll notice that throughout this practice, the focus of your mind will shift. You might find that you become distracted by something internal or external. And that's okay, it's just your brain doing its job. And perhaps there can be comfort in the vastness of your emotions, the vastness of your thoughts, and how quickly they can change. You can recall that sadness is temporary and fleeting, just as happiness is temporary and fleeting. You've been in this shape for a few moments, so notice if anything has shifted or if anything needs to be adjusted, maybe changing the position of your arms or the distance of your heels from your pelvis. Continue to take those deep breaths, maybe targeting the breath to your belly. You may have heard me say this in other classes on here, but breathing with our belly activates that parasympathetic nervous system, that rest and digest part of our body. Allowing ourselves to breathe with our bellies soft helps create a sense of calm throughout your body. We've got less than a minute here in this shape. Take another long, deep, full breath in. Gently exhale. Listen carefully. Using your hands, you'll bring your knees back together. Maybe curl your knees up into your chest and give yourself a squeeze. Maybe gently rock from side to side. You could even extend the legs long towards the ceiling for a moment, allowing them to just kind of dangle in the air. Slowly hug your knees back in toward your chest and roll over to one side for a moment, maybe pausing on your side for a second. And then slowly push yourself up to a seated position. And you'll want your pillow or your bolster nearby. And we'll be moving into deer pose. So I believe we did this in the first class of this series that was streamed live. But you'll bring your bolster on the outside of your left hip. Your left shin will be parallel to perhaps the long edge of your mat. Your right shin is going to be parallel to the short edge of your mat. And so your legs are almost in like a sort of like a Z shape. And again, that bolster or your pillow is coming out perpendicular to your left thigh. And then one option is to lean your torso over the bolster or pillow, maybe resting your head in your hands. You could also lay your torso fully down on your bolster or your pillow. One other option, which is a bit of a twist, would be placing your hands on either side of your pillow or bolster, turning your torso so that your chest and your heart is aiming for that pillow or bolster, and then lowering your chest down, coming to rest, maybe hugging that pillow or bolster. So again, a couple of different options, maybe having it be more of like a side bend, a side support, twisting gently, laying fully down onto your prop. In this shape, ensure that you have enough space in your torso to be able to breathe fully, and ensure that the prop isn't obstructing, I'm forgetting words for a moment, isn't causing you to be able or to not breathe as fully as you could as if you had that space in your midsection. Now, sometimes when I do this class with you, I get real zenned out and can't talk. So forgive me. So in this shape, you might experience some pressure on the outside of your left hip. Maybe there's a stretch or a slight opening across the inner leg line, both legs, maybe in particular that back inner right leg, right inner thigh. You might feel a twist or maybe even an opening across the chest, a twist through your torso if you're laying with your chest fully on your prop. If you're on your side, maybe you feel an elongation across the left side of your ribs. And again, you might find yourself distracted, appropriately so, throughout this practice, as there will be moments of silence. Maybe in those moments you come back to the sensation of your breath, attempting to breathe really fully and deeply, maybe breathing with your belly rather than the chest. If it doesn't feel safe to use breath, you can also notice the textures around you, perhaps the texture of your mat or the floor beneath you, the texture of your props that you're using, or even the clothes against your skin. The idea is that we offer the brain something else to focus on rather than those darting distractions internally or externally. And that distraction provides almost an anchor to the present moment. So the breath can be an anchor to the present moment, the textures around you. We'll be here for less than a minute or so. Feel free to stay in the same shape or perhaps switch your upper body, maybe coming into that more of a side stretch, or maybe draping your torso over the bolster or pillow, whatever would feel comfortable for you. Take a long, deep breath in. And exhale. Inhale and gently push your torso upright. Ooh, and then extend your legs long out in front of you. You can take your bolster or pillow and just move it over to the right side of your hip or outside of your right hip. And then with your legs extended long in front of you, maybe just allow your feet to kind of, you can't see mine, but they're sort of windshield wipering back and forth. You might tap the legs up and down. You might bring your hands behind you, fingertips maybe facing away from you or towards you, whatever feels more comfortable. And then opening up through the chest, maybe dropping the head back. Getting a little bit of an opening across the front of the body. You might even gently twist your upper body from side to side. Just kind of wringing out the spine, being gentle and moving with care. And then whenever you feel ready, you'll come back to neutral or center. And you'll bring your left ankle just above your right knee. It's almost like in a figure 4 shape on your legs. If you'd like, I should have said this before, you can grab your 2 blocks or books and maybe stack them on a height in front of your left shin so that you have somewhere to perhaps round forward and rest your forehead. You could also round forward without any props to support your head and maybe reach for your right foot, or maybe just hands planted on either side of your leg. One other option is if this feels a little too intense on that left knee, you can always come to your back and take eye of the needle pose or figure 4 on your back. Threading your hands through your legs to wrap around your right thigh. And then maybe gently pressing your left thigh out with your left elbow. That's the same exact pose as this one. So again, finding what works for you, maybe rounding forward or maybe maintaining a long spine. But wherever you are, whichever shape you're taking, if you're doing this half shoelace pose or that eye of the needle pose on your back, you might feel some pressure in the inner left hip, as well as a stretch across perhaps the inner left leg line, the inner left thigh, and the groin. Maybe a stretch across the back of your right leg, across that hamstring. Wherever you are, and especially if you're rounding forward, ensure again that you have enough space across your midsection to be able to breathe just as fully as you could as if you were sitting upright. Allow your jaw to be soft, your knees to be soft, your feet to relax. Recall your ability to come back to the present moment if you get distracted. That act of catching yourself out of the moment and bringing yourself back to the present, that in and of itself is meditation in some forms. And according to John Kabat-Zinn, who is one of the meditation teachers that I follow, that is meditation. We'll be in this shape for about a minute or so. So again, feel free to adjust. Perhaps that means coming up to a straight spine. Maybe it means rounding a bit more forward or staying exactly as you are. If you're taking that eye of the needle pose on your back, you might gently play around with increasing the arch in your low back. So tilting the hips a bit forward and seeing how that changes the stretch across your legs. Take a long breath in and exhale. If you're upright, use your arms to prop yourself up. Extend both legs long in front of you. If you were taking that eye of the needle pose on your back, gently roll to one side and then slowly make yourself way up to a seated position. You might gently kind of massage out your legs a little bit, maybe massage where you are. You might even simply pause and just take notice of your left leg and your right leg, the left hip, right hip. Perhaps one leg feels a bit more tense than the other. Maybe not. As you feel ready, we'll move over to deer pose, but this time on the right side. And so you'll bring your prop, that pillow or bolster, outside your right hip. Your right shin will be parallel with the long edge of your mat. And your left shin will be parallel with the short edge at the back of your mat. So you're in sort of like a Z shape again with your legs. And then same options apply here, just as we did on the first side. You might come to rest the side of your waist, the right side of your waist, and prop your head in your hand. You might recline fully on your side. You may also bring both hands on the outside of your prop, twisting your torso. It's going to pull definitely on this back left leg and the left hip. And then your heart will be aiming towards your prop, and then you'll lower your torso down, resting your head onto one side, maybe hugging that prop. So again, finding what shape works best for you in this moment. Ensuring that you can breathe freely without effort. In this shape, you might feel some sensation across the inner left leg line, the inner left thigh. Maybe some pressure in the hips. You might feel, depending on the way your torso is positioned, you might feel a stretch across, the right side of your torso. As I was sequencing for this class today, I was noticing that here in Boston, the weather is absolutely beautiful today, and I hope that wherever you are, you're lucky to have beautiful weather today as well. I noticed that some of the trees are blooming and flowers are starting to blossom, and I was remembering that, oh, spring is actually here. Even though right now most of us are spending a lot of our time indoors, given what's going on. And yin yoga, in addition to the actual physical practice, it's rooted in traditional Chinese medicine. And so there's an influence with the seasons and the 5 elements, as well as meridians in the body. And I won't go too much into detail about those today. But today's practice is honoring spring and also targeting the liver and gallbladder meridians in the body. And if you're curious, while you're in this shape, I'll show you where those meridians are. So you can see right now we're targeting actually both the gallbladder and the liver meridians with that inner and outer leg line. And if you didn't see it, you can rewind once we're done to the 37-minute mark to see that. So we've got about another minute or so left here, so you might adjust where your torso is. As you feel ready, big, deep breath in and let it go. Inhale, begin to peel yourself up off of your prop. And again, extending the legs long in front of you. You can move that pillow or bolster off to the side. And then again, maybe just pause for a moment. You'll notice that in between sides or in between shapes, we pause in a relatively neutral stance. And this allows for the body to integrate the movement that we've just done. It's known as the rebound or resonance pose. The idea is that in yin yoga, we're targeting the connective tissues in the body rather than the muscles. And so targeting the joints, the fascia, the collagen, ligaments, joints, I might have said those words. We're targeting those parts of the body. And with stress for a sustained period of time, they begin to shift, but we also need to bring the body back. And so that's what this type of pose does when we take that rebound or resonance pose. So when you feel ready, you'll bring your right ankle just above your left knee. I'll turn again. And coming into that half shoelace on the right side. And so you might bring your books or your blocks as props so that you can round forward, resting your forehead onto them. You could also potentially round forward, reaching towards your left foot. I didn't say this on the first side, but hands on either side of your hips with a long, straight spine is also an option. And finally, taking eye of the needle is an option as well, where you would thread your hands to wrap around your right thigh, coming into that figure 4 shape on your back. Maybe pressing the right thigh out with your right elbow. Wherever you are, you might feel some pressure or a stretch across the inner right leg, that inner right thigh. Maybe there's some pressure in your hips or the inner right hip. And again, wherever you are, perhaps you can take some deep breaths here into the belly. If you're rounding forward, allowing your shoulders to melt down over your lower body. You might feel a stretch across the back of your left leg. Maybe a spreading of the shoulders as you round forward, or an elongation of the spine if you keep a long, straight spine. See if there's any part of your body that might just surrender a little bit more, releasing any tension. Releasing any effort that's no longer needed in this moment. You've been in this shape for a few minutes, so you might find that you need to gently adjust. That might mean shifting your props and rounding a bit more forward. Maybe it means coming up to a straight spine or staying exactly as you are, whatever feels most appropriate for you and your body in this moment. Knowing that what I do and what's best for me is going to be different from what's best for you. As you feel ready, take a big, deep breath in. And gently exhale. Inhale, use your arms to walk your torso back upright. Extend the legs long in front of you. If you're on your back in that eye of the needle pose, maybe curl over onto one side. And you might this time tuck and for those of you on your back and eye of the needle, you can eventually gently come up to a seated position with your legs extended in front of you. And then you might make fists with your hands, tucking your thumbs into your palms, wrapping your fingers over them so you have this flat part in between the knuckles of your fingers. And then one leg at a time, there's no polite way to say this, beat your leg. Just kind of gently pound that flat part of your fingers onto the fleshy parts of your legs. Avoid your knees. Maybe massaging into the calf a little bit, along the shin. Again, avoid the knee, come up to the thigh. Say hello to your IT band, back of your thigh, inner thigh. And then release the one leg, and then just notice for a moment, do you feel anything in the leg that you were just massaging? Maybe is there a swirling or a tingling or like this residual vibration? Maybe you don't feel anything. We'll move over to the other leg. So according to traditional Chinese medicine, there's this flow of energy called qi throughout the body. Again, getting that calf muscle around the shin, avoid your knee, maybe coming up to the thigh. But this energy or qi that flows throughout the body flows through meridians. In today's practice, as I mentioned, we're targeting those liver and gallbladder meridians, which again, go back to the 37-minute mark if you want to see the diagram. And the idea is that these movements allow for the qi to become unstuck and flow more freely through the body. And go ahead and release that leg. And again, just notice any weird sensations like a swirling or a residual vibration in your hands and your legs. And according to traditional Chinese medicine, if you do feel something, that's technically your qi, your energy, your life force flowing through your body. So kind of cool. So whenever you feel ready, you'll gently come back to lie on your back and extend your legs long towards the ceiling. Just kind of allow your legs to hang for a moment. I say this probably every time, but this is a really nice pose to do right before bed, legs up the wall. You could literally do it up against a wall or against your bed or your headboard. It's a nice way to get the blood flowing down towards your heart and your brain if you've been sitting or standing all day. And our last pose will be happy baby pose. And so you'll bend your knees so that your knees are coming out wide toward your armpits. And you can reach your hands up to the inside part of your foot, or perhaps the outside. And it's almost like you're in a squat position, but on your back. You might play around for a moment with extending one leg long, bending and extending the other leg, just finding a little bit of fluid movement here if it feels okay. Maybe rocking from side to side. And then at some point finding stillness, holding in this happy baby pose. And here you might feel a stretch across your inner thighs. Maybe some pressure in the low back as your sacrum is being pushed into the floor or your mat. Protect your cervical spine, the back of your neck, by gently lifting your head, pulling your chin down toward your chest, and lowering your head back down just so that your forehead and chin are level. Again, take those deep inhales and exhales, maybe breathing more with your belly. You might experiment with widening your feet a little bit, taking a wider happy baby pose, maybe bending the knees a bit more into your armpits, maybe staying exactly where you are. There's no one better pose or better way of doing this. Be here for just a minute more, so continue to breathe into any of those spaces that you feel some sense of discomfort. As you feel ready, big breath in and sigh it out. Slowly bring the soles of your feet together. Maybe wing your knees out to the side. Maybe gently rock from side to side or hug your knees in toward your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. And then perhaps the moment you've all been waiting for, extend your legs long on your mat. Grab any supports that you need for this final resting pose or Shavasana. So you might grab your blanket and wrap yourself up with your blanket. A nice weighted blanket hack is to just kind of stack some blankets or pillows across the front line of the body, across the hips and the chest. It's a nice way to send a sense of security to the body, as all the major organs are in this region. And fidget as much as you need to in these first few moments so that you can find some relaxation and rest. Allowing every muscle and ligament and joint, fascia, the connective tissue in your body, just all of it to melt and be supported by the ground beneath you. Come back to that mindset of holding space for yourself. Allowing any emotion or thought to gently drift past your mind's eye rather than placing a judgment or meaning on that thought or emotion. Slowly begin to deepen your breath, allowing your inhales to be a bit more expansive and gently waking the body up with your breath first. Slowly start to move your fingers and your toes, open and close your palms, maybe roll the ankles, roll out the wrists. You might hear some cracking or popping. It's okay. Gently move your props off to the side if you've got them resting on top of you. Gently hug your knees into your chest for a moment. Give yourself a squeeze. And then gently and with care roll over to one side, pausing for a moment on your side with your eyes closed or a soft gaze. Using your arms, allow your torso to come upright and then return to that seated position that you took at the start of this class. If you'd like, I'll invite you to bring your left hand to rest over your heart, fingers spread wide. Your right hand rests on top of your left, fingers spread wide. Maybe you allow your chin to drop slightly, eyes closed or with a soft gaze. Take a big breath in and let it go. Again, big breath in and exhale. Once more, big breath in and let it go. Offer yourself some gratitude for holding space for yourself today and for making the time to do this practice. Slowly lower your hands to your knees and gently blink open the eyes and come back to the space. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope that this was helpful, and hopefully you can recall that just as the practice in each pose, they were all fleeting and temporary. Any emotions and thoughts that might be coming up right now during this time, those are also fleeting and temporary. Hope to see you next week at 4 o'clock for another live stream. All right, be well.